Hunter Cichy is with us tonight. Hunter, welcome to the show. Thanks for being a high roller, man.
Thanks for having me.
You're coming off a pretty good weekend indeed. You came fifth, I understand, for 26.1K. That's not too shabby. Congrats on that. Where were you playing? What event? And I take it that things went pretty smoothly throughout.
Yeah, I was playing at the Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida. I was in the 1650 Deep Stack series that they had. It was their main event. They had 3-day ones, and it ended up being a 3-day event. I don't think that was originally planned. It was supposed to be a 2-day event, but we went really late last night. We played 15 hours, so until 3 a.m. A winner still hadn't been decided yet, so we came back today with 8 players and played the rest out. So I ended up taking fifth for 26.1K, and it was a nice little bankroll boost for Vegas. My bust-out hand was 8-7 off versus Ace-King offsuit, blind versus blind for 10 big blinds. So not much that I could do right there.
You talked about the bankroll boost for the WSOP. We're almost there. I mean, it's coming up this week. You know, a big score like that always gives you confidence. Do you find that that carries over into the events that ensue right after?
I think so. Like you said, boosting confidence. Also, just getting my mind right for final table play and such. Going deep in big events, and just knowing how to manage the stress involved with that. It all plays a big role in what's coming up for the summer.
So let's talk about the summer coming up. Is the marquee event this year, aside from the main, the Colossus?
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems that the WSOP is pushing that really hard this year. I'm glad they are. I think it's a great idea. I don't know how manageable it's going to be. They've certainly prepared really hard for it, but once you get 15,000 people in there, you might run into some issues.
You know, for first-timers going down, besides the long lineups of the washrooms, what other issues are they going to run into?
Expensive hotel rooms. I was just joking with some of my friends that all the hotel rooms are packed this upcoming weekend because of the Colossus, and now they're charging like $160 a night minimum, so you're going to have to deal with that. You have to deal with long taxi lines at the end of the night, expensive food, and going in and out between, hot weather, cold weather. You got to make sure that you really, you've got your supplements ready to go so you don't get sick, because if you're out there for 44 days and you're dealing with 10,000 people at the Rio, somebody's going to be sick. You got to make sure that you keep your immune system up. So there's a lot that you have to deal with, and really glad that I have all that experience after last summer, so I know how to better prepare this summer.
Yeah, let's talk about last summer. I mean, 89th in the main event. That is incredible, man. That's the run of a lifetime. Talk us through that event for you. I mean, that was the big one last year.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I had a very successful series prior to that, so I ended up cashing in 3 other bracelet events: the Mix Max, the Millionaire Maker, and I want to say, I forget which other one it was. That's funny, but so I had quite a bit of money going into that, and obviously it was my first main event, so I was a little bit nervous, but having a deep stack cash game background, it's the perfect event for me because the structure is so good. You've got 2-hour levels. You're going to play several days, so you're not in any hurry to really be playing any huge pots, and it's great for someone that has the post-flop skill that I've developed because of cash games, and I was able to use that to my advantage quite a bit. I actually wasn't all in until very late day 4, so whenever you can play almost 48 hours of poker without being all in, that's pretty incredible.
Guys like you have a big edge in events like the main event and the Colossus, I suppose, when there's a lot of guys that are putting it on their bucket list, right? There's a lot of, I wouldn't say dead money, but maybe easy money in there?
Absolutely, yeah. One thing that I try and tell my students that are really trying to get serious about poker is that I'm studying poker 2 hours a day, every day. So that's 14 hours a week. And a lot of times that adds up to more time than most amateurs are playing per week. So it's very important for them to keep that in mind if they really want to improve that. It's a huge time commitment, and a lot of people don't understand that. So when all these people are coming in for the Colossus and for the main event and such, a lot of times I'm studying more hours of poker a year than they're playing. So, I mean, you really just need to compare that and see the contrast involved.
Listen, I know you play a lot of live poker. You play the cash games in Florida. We're going to talk about that and Check Shove Poker in a minute. But, I mentioned that I'm a junkie of poker, and Twitch is out now, and I just love it. I've been watching a lot of the scoop events, and one of the things that really baffles me is these HUDs that these players are using. They've got all the stats and all the other players. As a live guy, I'm wondering what you think about these HUDs that the online players are using.
Well, having a fundamental understanding of a heads-up display is huge. So just knowing what VPIP PFR means, voluntarily put money in pot, pre-flop raise, understanding what a standard 3-bet percentage is, a standard C-bet percentage, being able to evaluate how often somebody's stealing the blinds, how often somebody's folding to a C-bet, etc. Just having a fundamental understanding of that is huge in live poker, even if I don't know what the exact numbers are, because at least I know what they should look like. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I just find it fascinating that they've got all these stats on the guys, but I guess, hey, it's online poker and you use everything online to your advantage, I guess. I want to talk more about the World Series, but I am interested in the event that you just played this weekend. You mentioned that there were 3 day ones. The Colossus has 4 starting flights. I know a lot of tournaments are going to that regiment. What do you think of that, the opportunity to play more than once in a tournament?
I think it's a great idea because when you're going, especially for bigger buy-in tournaments, so when you have people flying across the country, everybody on Check Show Poker is flying across the country to play a certain event. I fly up to Atlantic City, I'm flying up to Vegas, etc. When you're going that far, you need to make sure that you have multiple day ones so that somebody can realize their total value in the tournament, because you never know what's going to happen. You can get it all in aces versus kings and get snapped off after 2 hours. After just being on a 6-hour flight, it's very important to have multiple day ones with multiple buy-ins.
Right, okay, and it's good for the organizers too, because they get that extra admin fee, and like you say, if you can afford to go in more than once, why not? Let's talk about Check Shove Poker. I know it's a poker coaching platform. What kind of platform is it as a whole? And I know that you have an impressive team roster there as well.
Yeah, we're trying to transition over to a primarily one-on-one coaching site, meaning that we completely break down a player's game and evaluate every facet of what they're doing so that we can specialize based on that player's exact needs and coach them one-on-one so that we can really get them where they're going in a very efficient period of time.
Okay, so I want to sign up. I come to your site. What am I going to get?
You just check out the homepage. It's pretty simple. You just scroll through and you're going to see an example of my standard coaching style. So I put a very heavy emphasis on pre-flop play. I do all of my coaching over Skype. All payments are done over PayPal. I really like to break down exactly what somebody is thinking pre-flop so that I can go over, first of all, game theory optimal pre-flop ranges, and also how those ranges can be altered to create more profit based on game dynamics and a whole bunch of other factors that I get into. You'll see a sample video of some of my pre-flop teachings, and that's the tip of the iceberg of some of the stuff that I go into with a lot of my students. After that, we jump into flop play. So there are 4 very key things that go into flop play. You've got pot equity, so how often your hand is going to improve. You've got fold equity, how often you need your opponent to fold. And then you also have pot odds, how often you need to be good and expect to have the best hand if you're calling, and also minimum defense frequency, which is something that very few people understand. Very few people realize how often you need to be check calling flops, turns, and rivers to defend against a very aggressive opponent like myself. So a lot of times people don't realize that I can take any 2 cards. I don't even need to look at my cards, and I can bet and expect to profit just because they have no understanding of minimum defense frequency. So that's the first 2 sessions. The third session, I really like to jump into defense. So really understanding how to break down somebody's range, understanding how they're going to choose to semi-bluff and value bet, etc. Being able to split those 2 types of hands apart and really break down how often you need to be good. That makes turns and rivers so much easier for most students. A lot of them just have no basis to be able to evaluate later into the hand, and that's a big reason why I take advantage in events like the main event. A lot of MTT players have no idea how to play turns and rivers correctly, and I really take advantage of that. So then after that, after the 3 fundamental sessions that I go through, I really like to start breaking down hand histories for my students, and then I kind of jump into some very advanced poker software that a lot of people aren't even aware is out there. It's very easy to use, very easy to download and implement, and a lot of people just don't even know that it's available. So that's kind of what I'm doing. If you're looking to kind of jump into mixed games or PLO, I've got a bunch of other coaches that are also very, very be good at those games and totally capable of coaching you in that as well.
You mentioned that a lot of your emphasis is pre-flop. I'm wondering, do you think players, guys like me, for instance, recreational players, make more mistakes pre-flop or post-flop?
Pre-flop is the foundation of profitable post-flop play. So a lot of times you can make all of the right decisions post-flop and still end up losing a really big pot, and often it's because you made a mistake pre-flop and the mistake compounded and it was a snowball effect of sorts.
Hunter, I know that you're a Minnesota native, but you decided very early to move to Florida because of the cash games there, the weather and such. What was that conversation like with your parents as a young man saying, hey, listen, I went to school to be a paramedic, but this is the decision I'm making?
Well, obviously, initially they weren't on board with it. They didn't like that I was staying out all night on Friday nights to be able to play 2-5 or 5-10 no limit. They really didn't understand it. They didn't like that I was in a casino environment, and rightfully so. Obviously, if I had kids, I wouldn't be encouraging them to be in a casino 40 hours a week when they're trying to complete a degree. And it's also not a stable income, so that's another concern that they had. But after they saw how much money I was able to win, I was able to buy a brand new car, pay off all of my student loans, and move to Florida. They were totally on board with it, and now they fully support me, so that's pretty cool.
And you moved to Florida because I guess you're crushing the cash games out there. You like the cash games, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's pretty incredible. I love the non-stop action. Like, there are not very many places in the world where you can show up at noon on a random Monday and be able to play 5-10 no limit or 10 and a quarter. I think that's pretty awesome.
Your results are pretty impressive, but I know that you've got some good testimonials as well. You've helped some players make a lot of money, right?
Yeah, I've been trying to track win rates. Obviously, it's hard when you're coaching cash game players to first of all train them to accurately track their winnings, and also be honest. A lot of people aren't honest with themselves when they're tracking their wins and losses. But I've had some pretty huge success stories so far. I've had 5 students that have increased their 2-5 hourlies by over $30 an hour. One of them increased it by $40 an hour over a 500-hour sample size, which is pretty incredible considering that most people cap out around $40 an hour. So if you're able to exceed that, I think that's obviously a pretty strong point to be made for my coaching.
You talked about winning early, but you also talked about putting in 2 hours of study a day. I'm wondering if you've had a knack for poker. Do you think it came natural to you? And secondly, do you think a lot of players, that's where they suffer the most when it comes to improving their game, is the study aspect of it?
Absolutely. You can't really expect to get better at anything unless you're practicing. So a lot of people just assume that they can get better at poker by playing. They assume that that's their practice, when in fact everything is done off the table. All of your practice is done off the table. And being able to go into a program like Poker Cruncher or Flopzilla and start breaking down flop textures and range versus range equity is something that is so critical to your development, and many people have never even considered doing that. So that's something that I push really hard in my coaching program as well. And I mean, that's why I win as much money as I do, because I'm willing to put in the time off of the table.
Lastly, with Check Shove Poker, by the way, it's checkshovepoker.com if you want to visit the site. If you go there and sign up, you will learn and improve your game. Let me tell you that. Why did you start Check Shove Poker? There's Twitch out there. There's so many websites out there now. What was your idea behind it, and why did you think that you wanted to impart your knowledge onto the masses and make them better?
Well, first of all, I started coaching about a year and a half ago, and I saw that I was having a huge impact on people's win rates and their lifestyles. Obviously, I was able to help them enjoy a game that they also enjoy. So after getting a little bit of experience coaching for PokerStrategy.com, RedChipPoker.com, etc., I decided that I wanted more control over my content so that I could really specialize it and go as far as I wanted to go with it. Obviously, there are other aspects that went into my decision making. When I'm making as much money as I am playing cash games, obviously I can spend it on silly, frivolous things, or I can invest it. I could invest it between stocks and bonds or real estate, but ultimately I prefer to invest it in something that I know best, which is, of course, poker, and Check Shove Poker allows me to really elaborate on all of that.
The World Series of Poker, you must be jacked. How many events are you going to play, and what do you expect this year?
Well, so far I'm going to be playing 13 Bracelet events.
Wow.
I also played a few events in the Venetian Deep Stack Series and a couple events at the Aria. So I certainly have a full schedule, and like I said, it's very important that I maintain my strength throughout those long 12-hour days. So I'm definitely prepared this year much more than I was last year, and I expect big things.
Hunter Cichy, our high roller tonight, the founder of Check Shove Poker. Good luck to you, Hunter, and good luck to everybody affiliated with Check Shove Poker at the World Series of Poker.